Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the observation deck's reinforced window, watching the asteroid mining operation below. The massive space rock, designated XK-739, had been pulled into Earth's orbital processing station 3 days ago. What should have been routine mineral extraction had turned into something far more extraordinary. "The readings are off the charts," her colleague Marcus whispered beside her. "Whatever's in there, it's big." Sarah adjusted her tablet, reviewing the thermal scans. Deep within the asteroid's core, something enormous was generating heat signatures that defied explanation. The mining crews had stopped drilling when their equipment detected what appeared to be organic tissue beneath tons of rock and metal. "Dr. Chen, you need to see this." Captain Torres's voice crackled through the intercom. "We've broken through!" Sarah rushed to the mining bay, her heart pounding. As the industrial doors slid open, she gasped at the sight before her. Embedded in the asteroid's heart lay a creature beyond imagination, a dragon-like being easily 100 meters long. Its scales, once probably magnificent, were barely visible beneath thousands of grotesque barnacle-like parasites that covered every inch of its body. The creature's chest rose and fell in labored breaths. Ancient amber eyes, dulled by pain and exhaustion, tracked slowly toward the humans gathering around it. Sarah could see intelligence there, older than human civilization itself. "It's alive," she breathed. "After who knows how long trapped in that rock, it's still alive." The barnacles weren't just attached to the creature's hide. They were feeding on it. Sarah watched in horror as the parasites pulsed, drawing life force from their host. Some were as large as dinner plates, their shell-like surfaces encrusted with what looked like centuries of accumulated space debris. "We should call this in to the Xenobiology Division," Marcus said, backing away. "This is way beyond our pay grade." But Sarah couldn't move. She stared into those ancient eyes and saw something that made her chest tighten. Resignation. The creature had given up. After eons of suffering, it was waiting to die. "No," she said firmly. "By the time the bureaucrats finish their meetings and send a team, it'll be too late. Look at it, Marcus. It's dying right now." She approached slowly, hands raised peacefully. The dragon's massive head turned toward her, nostrils flaring. Up close, she could see that some of the barnacles had actually grown into the creature's flesh, their roots burrowing deep beneath the scales. "I know you understand me," Sarah whispered. "I can see it in your eyes. You're in pain. Let me help." The dragon's eyes widened slightly. A low rumble emanated from its throat, not threatening, but questioning. Sarah turned to the mining crew. "I need every medical scanner we have, plus the industrial cleaning equipment, and someone get me a direct line to Dr. Yamamoto at the medical research station." "Sarah, you can't be serious," Marcus protested. "We don't know anything about its biology. We could kill it trying to remove those things." "It's already dying," Sarah snapped. "Look at the vital readings. Those parasites are literally eating it alive. We have maybe hours before organ failure sets in." She knelt beside the creature's massive head, placing her hand gently on what little uncovered scale she could find. The dragon's eye fixed on her, and she felt a strange sensation, like whispers at the edge of her consciousness. Ancient memories flashed through her mind. She saw the dragon soaring through star fields, its species guardians of cosmic knowledge. She witnessed the attack. Other aliens, jealous of the dragon's wisdom, releasing the parasites as a biological weapon. The dragons had tried to flee, but the parasites were too virulent, too aggressive. This one had encased itself in rock and ice, hoping to starve the parasites in cryogenic sleep. But the parasites had evolved, learning to hibernate alongside their host, feeding slowly to extend their own survival. "You've been trapped for thousands of years," Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Alone and in agony." The dragon's rumble grew softer, almost like a purr. In her mind, she heard something impossible, a voice, ancient and tired. "Little healer, why do you weep for one such as me?" Sarah's breath caught. The telepathic connection was real. "Because no one should suffer like this. Because you're intelligent, you're beautiful, and you deserve to live free of pain. My kind believed the small species were beneath notice. We were wrong. Your heart burns brighter than the stars we once called home." "Then let me help you," Sarah pleaded. "Trust me." The dragon's eyes closed slowly, then opened again. "I am Ketharin, last of the Star Guardians. If you believe you can succeed where my own people failed, I place my fate in your small, brave hands." Sarah stood, wiping her eyes, and turned to address the stunned crew. "You heard him. This isn't just some animal. This is Keth Aaron, and he's counting on us. We're going to save his life, even if we have to invent new medicine to do it." She activated her communicator. "Dr. Yamamoto, I need every xenobiology expert you can spare, plus your best parasitologists, and prep the largest surgical bay you have." "Sarah, what exactly are you planning?" Dr. Yamamoto's voice carried a mix of curiosity and concern. "The most important operation in human history," she replied, looking back at Ketharan. "We're about to prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our inability to walk away from someone in need." The dragon's mental voice touched her mind again. "You speak of humanity as if it were one being. Are you all like this?" Sarah smiled. "When it matters most? Yes, we're stubborn like that." As the medical teams began arriving and setting up equipment around the massive creature, Sarah noticed something remarkable. Each person who looked into Ketharan's eyes had the same reaction she'd had: immediate empathy, followed by determination. The telepathic connection was affecting everyone, but instead of fear, it inspired compassion. "All right, people," she called out, as more specialists poured into the mining bay. "We're looking at a parasitic infestation that's been active for millennia. The host is alive, but barely, and we're running out of time. I need ideas, and I need them fast." Dr. Martinez, the station's top surgeon, approached with a grim expression. "Sarah, I've never seen anything like this. Some of these parasites have root systems that go down to the bone. If we try to remove them surgically, the blood loss alone could kill him." "Then we don't remove them surgically," Sarah said, her mind racing. "We make them remove themselves." She turned back to Ketharan. "I need to understand exactly how these parasites work. Can you share your memories of when they first attacked?" The dragon's eyes grew distant, and suddenly Sarah's mind was flooded with images. She saw the parasites as they truly were. Not just physical creatures, but semi-digital entities that could interface with living nervous systems. They weren't just feeding on blood and tissue, they were feeding on life force itself, on the bioelectrical energy that animated living beings. "They're energy vampires," she breathed. "That's why they've survived so long. They don't need much to sustain themselves, just enough electrical activity to keep them alive." Dr. Park, the station's electrical engineer, overheard her. "If they're feeding on bioelectrical energy, what if we gave them something better to feed on? Something that would make them abandon their host?" Sarah's eyes lit up. "You mean create a more appealing energy source? Something synthetic?" "Exactly. We could design an electromagnetic field that mimics the dragon's bioelectric signature but amplified, make it so attractive that the parasites can't resist." Ketharan's voice whispered in her mind. "The small ones speak wisdom. My people tried brute force and failed. Your species thinks differently." "Different is right," Sarah grinned. "We're about to turn your parasite problem into a parasite buffet. But first, we need to understand exactly what these things find irresistible." As the team worked feverishly to analyze the parasite's feeding patterns, Sarah felt a warmth spreading through her chest. This was what humans did best. They saw a problem that seemed impossible and refused to accept it. They innovated, they adapted, and they never gave up on someone in need. The dragon's breathing grew more labored, but his mental voice remained strong. I have watched species rise and fall across the cosmos. None have shown such immediate compassion for a stranger. What makes your kind different? Sarah paused in her work to meet his massive gaze. Maybe it's because we know what it's like to feel helpless. Every human has been there, sick, afraid, alone. When we see someone else suffering, we remember that feeling, and we remember how much it meant when someone helped us through it. Remarkable. Most species grow powerful and forget weakness. Humans grow powerful and remember it. That's our secret, Sarah said softly. We never forget where we came from. Around them, the team continued their desperate work, each person driven by the same unspoken understanding. They weren't just trying to save an alien creature. They were proving something fundamental about humanity itself. The next 18 hours blurred together in a frenzy of scientific innovation and desperate determination. The medical bay had been hastily expanded to accommodate Ketharan's massive form, with teams working around the clock to keep him stable while they developed their unprecedented treatment plan. Dr. Park stood before a holographic display showing the electromagnetic frequencies they'd recorded from the parasites. The good news is that these things are predictable, he announced to the assembled team. They're drawn to specific bioelectric patterns like moths to a flame. And the bad news? Sarah asked, though she dreaded the answer. Creating a synthetic version that's more attractive than a living host? It's like trying to make artificial honey that's sweeter than flowers. Theoretically possible, but we're working with equipment that was never designed for this. Dr. Yamamoto pulled up Ketharan's latest vital scans. We're running out of time to theorize. His life signs are deteriorating faster. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now. Sarah looked at the dragon's massive form, now covered with monitoring equipment that seemed absurdly small against his ancient bulk. His breathing had grown shallow, and the parasites appeared to be feeding more aggressively, as if sensing their host's weakness. "Ketharan," she said softly, placing her hand on his snout. "Can you hear me?" The dragon's eyes opened slowly. His mental voice was weaker than before. "Little healer, I feel the darkness approaching. Perhaps it is time to accept what my people could not prevent." "No," Sarah said firmly. "We're not giving up. But I need your help. Can you show us exactly how your bioelectric system works? If we understand it better, we can create a perfect lure. You ask me to expose the most intimate secrets of my kind. Knowledge that could be used to harm any Star Guardian who might still live." Sarah felt the weight of his words. He was asking her to trust her entire species with information that could be weaponized. "I understand what you're risking, but look around you, Ketharan. Look at what my people are doing right now." The dragon's gaze swept across the medical bay. Humans who had never met him before were working without sleep, spending their own resources, risking their careers, all to save the life of an alien they'd discovered just hours ago. Dr. Martinez was modifying surgical equipment to work on scales harder than diamond. Engineer Thompson had rigged up a life support system from mining equipment and medical supplies. Dr. Patel was synthesizing nutrients that could be absorbed through the dragon's hide since his mouth was blocked by parasites. "Your species confounds me," Ketharan admitted. "Very well. I will trust you as you have trusted me." Suddenly, Sarah's mind was flooded with impossible knowledge. She saw the intricate bioelectric network that powered the Star Guardians, a system so complex it made human nervous systems look like simple circuits. The dragons didn't just have one heart. They had 7 specialized organs that generated different types of bioelectric energy for flight, telepathy, and stellar navigation. "Oh my God," she whispered, staggering as the information overwhelmed her. Dr. Park, you need to see this. They're not just biological, they're living superconductors. Park rushed over as Sarah transmitted what she'd learned to the computer systems. The holographic display exploded with new data, showing energy patterns that were impossibly elegant and efficient. This is incredible, Park breathed. Look at these frequencies. No wonder the parasites are so addicted. This is pure, refined life energy. It's like the difference between crude oil and rocket fuel. Dr. Martinez studied the anatomical data. But look here. See how the parasites have tapped into multiple energy channels? They're not just feeding randomly. They've learned to access the most potent sources first. Sarah felt a chill as she realized the implications. That's why conventional removal failed. The parasites aren't just attached, they're integrated into his power grid. Remove them wrong, and we could cause a cascade failure that would kill him instantly. The team fell silent as the magnitude of their challenge became clear. They weren't just removing parasites, they were performing surgery on a living power plant while keeping it operational. "Wait," said Dr. Chen, the station's energy specialist who had joined the team. "What if we're approaching this backwards? Instead of trying to remove them, what if we overload them?" "Explain," Sarah said quickly. "Look at the data. These parasites have evolved to handle a specific range of energy input. They're like electrical components. They have tolerances. What if we create a synthetic energy source that's so potent, so concentrated, that it burns them out?" Park's eyes lit up. "Like overloading a circuit. But we'd need to be incredibly precise. Too little and they'll just adapt. Too much and we could fry Ketharan's nervous system along with them." Sarah turned back to the dragon. "Ketharan, would your body be able to handle a massive energy surge if we could direct it specifically at the parasites?" "My people were created to channel the power of stars themselves," he replied weakly. "But I have been weakened by centuries of feeding. I do not know if I retain that strength." "Only one way to find out," Sarah said grimly. "But we're going to need a fail-safe. Dr. Martinez, can you prepare emergency neural dampeners? If his system starts to overload, we need to be able to shut everything down instantly." As the team worked to prepare the unprecedented procedure, Sarah noticed something remarkable happening. Word of their efforts had spread throughout the station, and volunteers were arriving from every department. The cafeteria staff brought meals they'd modified based on analysis of Ketharan's nutritional needs. Maintenance crews had fabricated custom equipment. Even off-duty personnel were arriving to help however they could. "Dr. Chen," came a voice over the intercom. "This is Captain Torres. I've got 17 different ships requesting permission to dock and assist, including a Martian medical transport and a belt mining vessel that's diverted from its scheduled route." Sarah looked around at the crowded medical bay, now filled with dozens of people from across human space, all working toward the same goal. "Ketharan, are you sensing this? I feel their minds like stars in the darkness, such unity of purpose. It is beyond my understanding. They do not know me, yet they offer everything they have." "That's humanity for you," Sarah smiled. "We're at our best when someone needs help." Dr. Park finished calibrating the energy generation array they'd jury-rigged from 3 different ships' power cores. "Sarah, I think we're ready. But I have to warn you, this has never been attempted before. We're essentially going to turn this entire bay into a massive electromagnetic weapon and fire it at the parasites while keeping Ketharan safe." "What are our odds?" Sarah asked. "Honestly, I have no idea. We're writing the textbook as we go." Sarah looked at the dozens of faces around her, humans who had dropped everything to save the life of an alien they'd never met. She felt a surge of pride in her species that threatened to bring tears to her eyes. "Ketharan," she said softly, "are you ready? Little healer, whether I live or die, I want you to know, your species has restored my faith in the possibility of goodness in this universe. You have given me hope that when my people's scattered children finally return home, they will find friends waiting among the stars. Sarah squeezed his snout gently. "You're not dying today. Not on our watch." She turned to address the room. "Everyone clear the primary field area. Dr. Park, bring the generators online. Dr. Martinez, stand by with the neural dampeners. And remember, if something goes wrong, our priority is Catherine's safety, not the success of the procedure." As the team took their positions, Sarah felt the weight of the moment. They were about to attempt something that violated every principle of cautious scientific method. They were taking enormous risks with inadequate testing and improvised equipment. And yet, looking around at the determined faces of her colleagues, she knew they were doing exactly what humans did best, refusing to accept that someone had to suffer when there was even the smallest chance of helping them. "Catherine," she whispered, "whatever happens, you're not alone anymore." "Nor are you, little healer. Win or lose, we face this together." The generators hummed to life, filling the bay with a sound like distant thunder. Energy readings spiked across every monitor as they prepared to attempt the impossible. Around them, dozens of humans held their breath, united in their determination to save a life that had already endured millennia of suffering. Sarah raised her hand, finger poised over the activation switch. In that moment, she felt the full weight of human compassion, their refusal to abandon hope, their willingness to risk everything for a stranger, their stubborn insistence that no one should die alone. "For all the lives we couldn't save," she whispered, "let us save this one." She pressed the switch. The energy surge hit like a controlled lightning storm. Every surface in the medical bay crackled with electricity as the jury-rigged generators pushed power levels beyond anything they were designed to handle. Sarah watched in terror and amazement as brilliant streams of energy arced toward Kath Aaron's parasites, drawn to them like magnetic fields seeking their opposite. For a moment that stretched into eternity, nothing seemed to happen. Then the parasites began to glow. "Energy absorption is spiking," Dr. Park shouted over the humming generators. "They're taking the bait." Sarah watched the readings with growing excitement and fear. The parasites were indeed feeding on the artificial energy source, but at a rate that defied their previous calculations. They were consuming power at such a tremendous pace that their bioelectric signatures were becoming visible to the naked eye. "They're overloading," Dr. Chen called out. "Look at the thermal readings." One by one, the parasites began to pulse with an eerie blue-white light. The largest ones, those that had been feeding longest, started to smoke. Their shells, which had seemed impenetrable just hours before, began to crack and peel away like old paint. But then alarms started blaring. "Kath Aaron's neural activity is spiking," Dr. Martinez warned. "The energy feedback is affecting his nervous system." Sarah's heart clenched as she saw the dragon's massive body convulse. His eyes rolled back, and his mental voice became a roar of pain that echoed through everyone's minds. "Neural dampeners now," Sarah ordered. Dr. Martinez's hands flew over the controls, but something was wrong. "The dampeners aren't responding. The electromagnetic field is interfering with our equipment." Sarah watched in horror as more parasites overloaded and died, but Kath Aaron's vital signs were becoming erratic. They were killing the parasites, but they might kill their patient in the process. "We have to shut it down," Dr. Park said, reaching for the emergency controls. "Wait!" Sarah grabbed his arm. She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, trying to find Catherine's consciousness through the storm of energy and pain. "Catherine, can you hear me?" Through the chaos, she felt a weak response. "The pain. It is like being born again. But I can feel them dying. They are finally dying. Can you hold on? Just a little longer? I have endured for millennia. I can endure this." Sarah turned to her team. "He's fighting. He's still fighting. We continue." Dr. Park looked at her with concern. "Sarah, his heart rate is becoming dangerous. We're pushing him beyond his limits. Then we work faster, she replied grimly. How many parasites are left? Dr. Chen checked the readings. Approximately 40% have overloaded, but they're the smaller ones, the largest parasites, the ones rooted deepest. They're still holding on. Sarah studied the energy patterns, her mind racing. They're not just bigger, they're more evolved. They've learned to regulate their energy intake. An idea struck her. Dr. Park, can we modulate the frequency? Make it more unstable? Harder for them to adapt to? That's actually brilliant. But it'll make the procedure even more dangerous for Catharin. Sarah looked at the dragon's massive form, watching his labored breathing. Through their mental connection, she could feel his determination, his ancient will refusing to surrender after coming so close to freedom. Do it, she said. Park's fingers danced over the controls, adjusting the electromagnetic field to create chaotic variations in frequency and intensity. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The remaining parasites began to pulse erratically, their bioluminescence flickering like dying light bulbs. But Catharan's response was equally intense. His entire body went rigid, every muscle locked in tension. Through their link, Sarah felt his mind struggling to maintain coherence as impossible amounts of energy flowed through his nervous system. I see. My people. His mental voice came in fragments. They are calling to me. From the star fields. No, Sarah shouted aloud. You're not dying today. Stay with us. She pressed both hands against his snout, channeling every ounce of determination she possessed through their connection. Around her, she felt the minds of her colleagues joining her, dozens of humans focusing their collective will on keeping the ancient dragon anchored to life. Such light, in such small beings. Catharan's voice grew stronger. I will not abandon such friends. The largest parasite. A grotesque thing the size of a dinner table that had been feeding directly from Catharan's primary neural cluster finally began to smoke. Its shell cracked with sounds like breaking pottery, and putrid fluids leaked from the fissures. That's the master parasite, Dr. Martinez exclaimed. The one controlling the other's feeding patterns. As the master parasite died, the remaining smaller ones seemed to lose coordination. They began overloading in rapid succession, their death throes sending cascades of failing bioelectric energy through the medical bay. Energy field is destabilizing, Park warned. We need to shut down now before we lose control. Sarah made a command decision. Do it. Shut it all down. The generators powered down with a sound like a massive sigh, leaving the medical bay in sudden, eerie quiet. Smoke rose from the corpses of hundreds of parasites as emergency ventilation systems worked to clear the air. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Catharin's chest rose in a deep, clear breath, the first unobstructed breath he'd taken in millennia. His eyes opened, and Sarah gasped at what she saw. The ancient weariness was gone, replaced by something she'd never expected to see. Wonder. I am free. His mental voice rang with disbelief and joy. For the first time in 3,000 years, I am free. Around the medical bay, a cheer went up from the assembled humans. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face as she watched Catharan slowly, carefully, move his head from side to side, testing muscles that hadn't functioned properly for eons. Vital signs are stabilizing, Dr. Martinez reported, his voice thick with emotion. Neural activity is normalizing. Blood chemistry is... Actually, it's better than normal. It's like his body is remembering how to function without the drain. Catharin's scales, visible now that the parasites were gone, shimmered with colors that seemed to capture starlight itself. He was magnificent, easily the most beautiful creature Sarah had ever seen. Little healer. His voice touched her mind gently. How do I thank those who have given me not just life, but hope? You don't need to thank us, Sarah said softly. This is what we do. This is what humans are for. No, Ketharan replied firmly. This is what the best of humans are for, and I have been privileged to meet many of the best. He raised his great head slowly, looking around at all the humans who had worked to save him. My people once thought we were the guardians of the galaxy, protectors of wisdom and knowledge. We were wrong. The true guardians are here in beings who measure their lives in decades but love with the intensity of stars. Dr. Yamamoto approached with the latest scanner readings. Ketharan, if you don't mind me asking, how do you feel? We want to make sure there are no lingering effects from the procedure. The dragon's laugh was like distant thunder, but warm and joyful. I feel as though I have been reborn, but more than that, I feel hope for the future. When my scattered people eventually return home, they will find that the galaxy has grown guardians more worthy than we ever were. Over the following days, as Ketharan recovered his strength, something extraordinary happened. His story spread throughout human space faster than any official communication could have carried it. Ships arrived daily, not seeking anything from him, but simply wanting to meet the ancient being their species had saved. Children sent him drawings. Poets composed verses about his rescue. Musicians created symphonies inspired by the frequencies used to free him. Engineers designed new medical equipment based on what they'd learned from his unique physiology. But perhaps most importantly, xenobiologists across human space began developing new protocols for helping other species in distress. The techniques pioneered during Ketharan's treatment became the foundation for an entirely new field of medicine. Your species amazes me daily, Ketharan observed as he watched a group of schoolchildren singing a song they'd composed about his rescue. Most would have saved me and forgotten. Humans saved me and made it part of who they are. That's just how we work, Sarah explained. Every time we help someone, we learn something new about how to help the next person better. And that, the dragon said with deep satisfaction, is why the galaxy will be in good hands. 3 months later, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Xenobiological Research Station, watching Ketharan's massive form glide gracefully through space outside. He had chosen to remain in human space, serving as an ambassador and sharing the knowledge of his people with their new friends. His presence had already changed everything. Trade routes that had been hostile became peaceful when Ketharan vouched for human intentions. Species that had never trusted aliens opened diplomatic relations after hearing how humans had saved the last Star Guardian, but the most profound changes were within humanity itself. The rescue had reminded them of their greatest strength, their instinctive compassion for those in need. Medical facilities were being built across human space, staffed with volunteers ready to help any species that required aid. Little healer. Ketharan's voice touched her mind from across the void. Do you ever wonder what might have been if your people had simply left me to die? Sarah smiled, watching as the ancient dragon performed a graceful loop around the station, his scales catching and reflecting the light of distant stars. I don't have to wonder, she replied, because that's not what humans do. When someone needs help, we help. When someone is suffering, we heal. When someone is alone, we become their family. It's not complicated. It's just who we are. And that, Ketharan said with deep contentment, is why the Star Guardians chose well when we chose to trust you. As Sarah watched him dance among the stars, free and joyful for the first time in millennia, she felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the station's heating systems. It was the warmth of knowing that her species had once again proven something fundamental about themselves. In a universe full of wonders and terrors, humanity's greatest gift wasn't their technology or their intelligence. It was their unwillingness to let someone suffer alone. And that gift, she knew, would light the path to a future brighter than any star.